Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Another great day for trading. We just had a big replot on the C bias within a 10-point range, looking for 45-degree angles on the ergs, 60-degree angles on the biases. With our new scalp setups, we need to see either 10, 5, or 3-minute ergs agree with the scalp setup. So what would have been a 1E coming in here just a moment ago, 1 volume DE, we wait to see the bigger confirmation of either the 10, 5, or 3 ergs agreeing with us, even a 1C. So we'll just be patient. We've got conflicted 10s, 5s are flashing back and forth. Nice B biases actually come in and going downwards. We need to see everything line up the way we need to. Volume this morning is actually still very light as it has been past couple of days. Ideally, we'll get into a bigger range. At some point, the market will open up. Overnight, we hit 22.75 as a high, 17.25 as a low, which is what we're tapping on right now. I guess this probably was our low overnight, so it's been pretty quiet overnight.
So at the end of the day, we are looking really at the 10, 5, or 3. If they have good ergotics angles, 45 degrees, then we can begin to look in a bigger sense at a particular setup based upon having at least one of those components in a nice orientation. Of course, that's how we're in this little bit of added filtering phase of our scalps, looking at them. Having one of those 3 components be established, and then looking for our scalp setup to come into place and in agreement with the direction of one of those bigger ergotics. Question was asked before last week whether or not the F has to agree. It certainly is an added layer if the F agrees with that, but it is not going to be a prerequisite. The prerequisite will be the 10, 5, or 3. Being established, and then looking for, on the scalp side, a scalp setup in that direction. Our regular base 10s, 5s, and 3s all remain the same in terms of the approach. Less than a 10-point range, 60 degrees on the ergotics, greater than a 10-point range, 45 degrees, and 10-point range, greater or lesser, 45 degrees on the ergotics. Looks like we are holding here at the low here of the morning. Looks like it will want to attack that. Probably will move through here with the 317s turning down. Don't have anything in our 10s, 5s, or 3s at the moment. They are conflicted. We are just now breaching into a 5 over a 5-point range, 22 looks like overnight 22.75, but 22 as the high of our morning, and now hitting just 16.75, so 5.25 point range. And in fact, just on that last plotting, our 5s and our 3s became a little bit more conflicted. Certainly the 5s started to separate a little bit there. That top 10 minute could turn to 45, or at least turn to red. And there it is. They're now starting to flash red. Of course, we will need to see that at 45 degrees. At the moment, we're playing just a little bit of a waiting game. As we do play that, the range on the day does increase, and that kind of gives us a little bit more view to play with, or a playing field to operate within. 16.25 is a point of resistance from later on Friday, just after 3 o'clock East Coast time. Came within a tick of that right there. One of the effects of having the 10, 5, or 3 minute ergodic being an agreement for a scalp means that we do, for tracking purposes, consider fewer scalps. And that is part of the bigger view, just with adding the extra layer of filtering just in the tighter ranges. We've been seeing the last while that some of the scalps have not had the momentum that we would like to see. And so adding that extra layer gives us the ability to infer that there will be some added strength, at least, or momentum, based upon the agreeable bigger cycle. Moment to see ourselves bouncing off the 1650 again. The 1625 is the low of, or the next point of resistance from Friday afternoon. See our ones and volumes turning up. Certainly the scalps in and of themselves can have impact and can move. We see that even just in this most recent pullback. We saw in that drop down from 1950, though there was no signal until later in that move. But by tightening up with the added layer of the 10, 5, or 3 ergodic being 45-degree agreement, simply adds that extra layer of strength and comfort in a thin, low volume market, tighter range market.
Sometimes no trade is the best trade as well, and we've certainly seen what it's like when the better, longer-term setups come in. I've had a lot of success with that over time, and I'll always remember those times. We don't have to take something and only do stuff that you feel comfortable with. Sometimes I know I've had times where I get a little anxious because you're sitting here and you want to do something and get in, and patience is a virtue.
Just confirmation with a question here. As long as we have conflicted 10s, 5s, 3-minute ergodics, though we see the scalp setups come in, we are ignoring them for tracking purposes until we see an agreeable 10, 5, or 3-minute ergodic. In the course of that, we can see the 3 minutes, say for example, come into place and have a base 3, and at the same time can consider scalps if there is no agreeable ergodic or bias to match with the base, the 3-minute ergodic. So we can have 45-degree 3 minutes down, say for example, but have no B, C, or 5-minute or 1 minute or 3 minute, nothing to compare that with, but maybe we have a volume D for example, with the 3 minutes. So that's kind of what we are looking for. Just had the 10-minute plot read, and slight curve to it. Let's see if that begins to develop in the meantime. Looks like we are in between, but showing a slight leaning toward turning upward in those 3 minutes. Let's see if that develops or if it holds this level. Certainly starting out this week the way last week went in its entirety, low volume, tight range, at least during our session times. There's a press up here based on the ones and the volumes, the strength in those ergotics, E bias, F bias moving into green, 317s turning. Slow move up there to 1850. Probably a little bit further this will go. These 3 minutes turn, we may even see this move up to the 20, 25, 20 even level. We see that very close to well, it looks like around the 1925 level is the 5 and 3 minute trend line resistance as well. Doesn't look like that overlaps with any significant horizontal resistance, so may provide a little bit of a stoppage. See the 5s and the 3s both turning green with this move up. D bias moving into green.
Again, if anyone has any questions, it is pretty slow right now. Please enter them in the question box and we'll do our best to answer them. Welcome to anyone who is joining us for the first time or second, third, fourth time. Trying to get an understanding of what we do. Sometimes all these charts, first couple of times, can look a little overwhelming. The 15-minute overview video, I think, will go a long way to explaining just a price chart and understanding all we have really is a price chart, ergodic, bias, and attack over several different time frames. And once you understand what a price chart is, which is the big chart at the top of the candlesticks, the ergodic moving averages, we have two different moving averages, the bias, which is another moving average, and then the attack, which is two other lines representing green representing buyers, red representing sellers. We understand all the nuances of each of those. Most importantly, we want the ergs, the ergodic moving averages, to be both the same color, same direction, want them both agreeing with each other, and at least a 45-degree angle agreeing with each other. And until we see that on either the 10 erg, the 5 erg, or 3 erg, we'll be sitting on the sidelines. And we'll just let this the slow market pass us by. On the smaller charts, though, do watch see the EK pattern come in. A nice red K attack. In the past, we would have considered this for a scalp. E has just gone flat and K backed off, trying to tighten up a bit now that we are in a much tighter market the past few days or past week or so. Lower volume, tighter ranges. And so some of the ones that we would have considered before for tracking when the market was in a bigger volume, even, well, I guess it was more volume that was trading in more than anything. We found that they still did work quite well in a tighter range, but you need more volume. Until that comes back, we're going to stick with these tightened rules here. Try to minimize some of the scalp trades. That one, again, if we were following the old more relaxed pattern, wouldn't have paid off. We like volatility in the market. We don't like chaos. We like volatility with trending. If we get emotion, we get chaos in the market, that's when we like to stay on the sidelines. The bigger the ranges, oftentimes the better. You'll see that our 10 ergs and our 10-minute chart on a bigger range, lots of volume, work magnificently.
Let's keep our eyes out on these 5s and 3s. 3s more particularly coming toward the 45 degrees. And 5s sort of trailing behind that. One of them certainly greater than 45 degrees. The other one coming close to it. A little bit shy on that bottom 3-minute.
Top 3 just turned red. Looked like it was coming into 45 degrees as we were pressing up. Since we've been on, it's been a tight range, just a 3-point range. See a nice red K attack coming in, which would have been an EK before with the F. It's good to recognize the patterns, even though we aren't going to take any of these for possible trade setups because we don't have the 10, 5, or 3. But keep watching for those patterns to come in and watch the movement that happens in the market. At some point when the market does relax a bit, we may consider taking away that filtering if those setups do end up paying off. More importantly, whether we do relax or not, we're still going to need those setups or those components of the setup. So we're going to still keep talking about those components coming in, even the 1D EK, 1 volume. Nice BC bias coming down. Nothing to pair with them. Of course, the ones, volumes, D, E, F are all coming down, and we've moved down nicely here.
You see the impact first being felt here in the 3 minutes. They're starting to show close to 45-degree angle beginning to come in. So we're coming very close here in the bottom 3 minute.
C bias, which was angled down nicely, has angled back up.
B bias is still angled down.
Yes, B is still down.
Let's see if this is a pullback. Top 3 minute, pretty much 45 degrees. The bottom one just off slightly. Let's see as we pull back here. Perhaps take another move down. You see we did bounce off of the 5 and 3 minute trend lines on that last move up to the 1950 as we talked about that being a possibility. We haven't hit 1650 here, so if we turn around here, move back up, we may see a move higher than the 1950 to the 2025 range. And we may begin to stair step up through that trend line point of resistance in the 5 and the 3, even in the 10. Let's see if that develops. At the moment, the only thing rounding into form is the 3 minutes, scalp or otherwise.
Nice 317 ergs. Nice and together, nice sine wave. Even the 1 ergs are a nice sine wave. Just looking at the actual pattern, you see them go up and come back down just like the 317s, and the volumes actually to a certain degree as well. It's what ultimately we want to see on the 10 ergs and even the 5 ergs. See the 3 ergs maybe starting to come back into that. Nice EK spike green. Oftentimes when we do see the E spiking or the F spiking together, it precedes a move. It can be either a short move or even a bigger move. See what happens here. Still a strong EK. Volume starting to come in. D bias is down. 1825 is a shorter term point of resistance. It's actually halfway between the 17 and the 1950. dipping through the 1825 to the 1850 here. We're starting to push up. Still have nothing in the 10, 5, or 3 ergs. Ones and volumes are angled up with the E-bias. Very slow. Been 25 minutes. Very tight range. Just over 300,000 contracts. B-bias still not down nicely. Nothing to pair with it. Ten, fives, ones are all conflicted. Threes not quite 45 going down. Top three's a little flat. Shorter term trying to push up towards our high of this range. 1950 is the next point of resistance. We're pushing up there. Nice one volume E, K, flat F. Fives, tens, and fives have gone green now as we've started to push up.
Top 3 minute is flattened now from 45 degrees. B bias down, A bias down, C bias down, D bias down. Again, pressing here to this trend line, 5, 3, and 10. Also horizontal resistance, 1950. It's just very slow here, and it is not the preference to track trades when it is slow, because without having some strength of volume, momentum, oftentimes we can find what may appear to be strong moves dissipate very quickly. Bottom 3 minute flattening as well. We may quickly find that this angles together to push through the 2025 level. Let's see if this comes together. 317s turn with ones and volumes continuing to be as they are. D bias moving into green. We may see this push quicker, higher, higher, quicker, and also see those 3 minutes turn. In which case, if we move through that level with both the 10s, 5s, and 3s all together coming into the green, that may be the development of the momentum strength push that we want to see.
In terms of economic data, we don't have any economic data this week. U.S. economic data until unemployment claims come out on Thursday. We are 3.5 points away from our all-time high. We do have a bunch of earnings reports coming out this week and will affect the broader market. A nice red K attack. Of course, we're just looking for shorter-term moves in the market.
Last plotting there had 10 minutes both turn red. A bias angle sharply down
nice
into the
A
red.
bias, yep.
10s and 5s, 5s flat, 3s have gone conflicted. So again, not much clarity on that last replotting in our 10s, 5s, and 3s. except that we do see the biases all in red now, and that overall could have an indication of near-term direction. Let's see if some of the charts, 10s, 5s, or 3s begin to move in that direction as well. See the 3s flashing back to red.
I find it interesting. The B bias, which was deep down, is now flat. It still is red, but the longer term A came in deeper. Nice D bias, E bias spiking up with a green K. There's no setup. 5 ergs are close to, well, the top, those ergs are flickering. They were close to 45, but even less so now. Oftentimes, again, when we do see that spiking on the E F bias, oftentimes it is a prelude to a move. Let's see if one happens. It can be an advance warning. Little things we look for the sharp attack on the K attack, even the J attack, L attack. When we talk about attack, we talk about a crossing. Green line crossing the red at a sharp angle, red crossing the green at a sharp angle. Remembering that the green line represents buyers, red line represents sellers. And when they attack each other, when those two lines come each other at a sharp angle, buyers and sellers are going in opposite directions in the short term or in that particular time frame. For the K attack, it's a very short time frame. L attack, even the 1 minute. Of course, G and H attack represent much longer time frames. You don't see those attack lines happen as much in those. You don't see the green and the red attack each other as much like we do on the J, K, and L, the sharp attacks. Nice E spiking, deeper in the E bias. D just came down into red. Still trading within this 3-point range we've been in this morning since we've been on. A little more than that for the morning and overnight. Can't remember the last time, Darren, we've gone 35 minutes without a trade to start off a day.
Certainly hasn't happened too often, but we've got. It's been a while since we've seen.
Okay, our 5 ergs just plotted in nicely.
Since we've seen the 3 minutes conflicted for this long as well. Or at least not even as 45 degrees, even on the 3-minute time frame of things. As you say, 5 minutes, top one 45 degrees, bottom one flickering a little bit, but still 45 degrees. Let's see, once we can see the ones and volumes begin to cycle up again, and now we're coming down in this range. Let's see if we hold this generally upward, sideways and upward trend through these blue trend lines, and hold the 45 degrees on the 5 minutes in order to see a scalp setup come in upward. At the moment, ones, volumes D, E, K, all downward. I would imagine this will move through the 1775 with that information. See, our fives have now come in a little bit stronger. Interesting, our A, B, and C are still in red. A buy is still with that thick or nice angle to it. Seeing a bit of a change in our 1 minutes. D, E now. So let's begin to look to see if there's something that may develop upward with those 5 minutes.
Bottom 5 erg is twitching just out of that 45. In and out. A nice green J attack, just backed off. E-buy is still in the green. Over 10 minutes, 15 minutes actually. Of course, we've been sideways here for, well, our whole morning.
There's the start of a push there in this smaller range with the 317s turning, F bias spiking. And don't have anything yet in our scalps to account or to consider with that white arrow. Looks like we are going to press to this 1950 level. Something does come in as a scalp. We can consider that with the 5 minutes being in agreement here. D bias backed off. Retreated from the 19 level there. Volumes are still down. 317s oscillating in their green-red here at the mid-cycle.
Longer term looking for 45-degree angle on the ergs, 60-degree angle on the biases.
Our 5 minute just went flat, conflicted there, red.
It did. Both 10s are green, but bottom one is 45 degrees,
Yeah,
not the
it
top
plotted
one.
upward, yeah. But nothing on the 10s, 5s, or 3s, so.
So again, we just wait. We just wait, be patient. D bias continues to angle down, then move down, then flat, then angle and move further deeper. E bias starting to come down. Volume E, there's nothing to pair with that on the 10-5 or 3 ergs. Very, very slow today. But we stay ready. Oftentimes when you trade in a tight range, the market will break out at some point. If we have a setup, we'll be taking advantage of that. One of our favorite trades is when the market trades in a tight range and then it breaks out of a consolidation zone. We just haven't had the breakout yet this morning.
Most recent 15 minutes, we've been in a 1 and a tick point range. Overall, in our morning, we've been in a essentially a 3.5 point range.
Volume EF spiking down.
We are up against the upward 3 and 5 minute trend line that's developing here. So we could continue to go sideways or completely break the downward trend lines and begin to gradually move upward potentially.
Need to break through this 18 or even 1775. As you mentioned, 1775 on the bottom end, 19 on the top end this last 15, close to 20 minutes. Attacking this 18, had 3 sell signals come in. Of course, we filter them all out with our setups. Still in this tight range. It looked like a few moments ago we might break down through here with all those red arrows. We still keep tapping on the 18, even 1775, but it's not pushing through. 1 ergs have turned up nicely, close to an EK. It just backed off. Of course, just looking at the what we call the scalp patterns. Of course, we aren't going to consider any of these for tracking purposes because our 10, 5, and 3 ergs are well pretty flat right now. We need to see a nice 45-degree angle on one of those, agreeing with the scalp. Pushing up towards the 19 right now. Possible EKF coming in. Again, just watching the pattern. Nothing for a setup. We say that we're pushing up towards the 19. We're just talking about the price, the 21.19, and just talking generally speaking about a trend that we see happening. We don't have any setups right now in our charts. And where would you look? I'm looking for that on any of the price charts, but in particular, oftentimes when I'm looking at the price, I look more at the 317 chart than I do the 10, 5, or 3 minute price charts. Only because that's the chart that we take arrows off of when we do have a setup. And we see more candlesticks. You can see more of the little nuances of the market.
3 months have plotted upward here, Greg, 45 degrees. So let's watch here for maybe a quick scalp that may come in upward here as we're, as you say, pressing toward the 19. We've been in this 19 to 1775 range for almost 20 minutes now, probably about 20 minutes. We see the ones turning up, the volumes starting to turn, nothing on the D. With the 3 minutes being in 45 degrees upward, we can look for scalps going upward. At the moment, ones are 45 degrees, but nothing in the volume or the D or the E to pair that with, though we are seeing the volumes tick up with the E. So we may have here a 1 volume with the E assisting, and of course the overarching 3 minute agreeing here very soon. Let's see if this develops to break through the 19 and gone flat a little bit on the top 1 minute. Volume still hasn't come into 45 degrees. And we may bounce again off of this 19 till there's a little bit more energy gathered. Again, over the course of time, as you see this a little bit longer, you'll begin to get a sense of how the market is moving. And of course, oftentimes the market does oscillate. Once it's established a range, it does oscillate within that range, generally speaking, for the day. And of course, there are various points of resistance and support that you tend to see the market move and bounce off of. If there's more momentum, it'll break through. If there's not enough, it'll bounce off. And so, for example, 19 has been a point of resistance here for the last number of attempts to move higher than that. The market has bounced off because there hasn't been enough energy. And in the same vein, the 1775 has been a support. And so the market hasn't moved below that, and it's oscillated here. We see with our 3 minutes upward, that's the first indication in a while where we have 45 degrees on one of the 10, 5s, or 3s. Don't have anything to... Actually, we're coming into a 3-1 now, Greg, with those 1 minutes coming back to 45 degrees. D bias is up, which is also agreeable. So we're starting to see a base 3 with a 3-1. We're dealing with adjacent charts here, so you can see the labeling on the ergodic line, the bias line, the attack line allows us to very quickly identify, in this case, the 3-1. The D is now gone flat. Angled down. So
as has the C.
As has the C. For two adjacent ergodics as a setup, 3-1 in this case, we do need one of the associated biases to be in agreement with its angle. And we see just on that last plotting there, the D and the C are both angled opposite, angled down. So even though we do have 3 and 1 ergodics there, there's nothing in terms of our 3-1 setup. Now we could see a scalp upward. Strong ones. Let's see if something can come in on the volume or the D or the E even to work with the 3 minutes as a scalp through that 19 in terms of a buy. So that's what we're looking for here at this point. But this is the first time for I think more than 30 seconds where we've had permission here with a 3-minute agreeing to allow our consideration for any scalp. And of course, in the course of time, the last while we have had scalp setups, and just been taking a little bit of a mental track on that. And with the lack of momentum, we was probably half a dozen or so close to it scalps that we could have looked at. And in terms of targeting one tick and ultimately paying off, looks like only 2 of them with our low volume and lack of range would have paid off for a 1 tick target. 4 of them would have been either break even or a loss.
We tap through the 19 finally.
So we've got our D bias back, flashing back again. At any rate, there's the D bias back again. So in this level, we can see a 3-1 with the D. We're also starting to see a 1 volume. So we have a 3-1 volume. And now our C and our D are angled down again. So there's our D bias oscillating. We've already had a white arrow, so we need to see a pullback for a base 3, but with a scalp, 1 volume with the D, and the 3-minute agreeable, we can look for the next white arrow for a scalp. Scalp in the range that we have is a 1 tick target. We see that 1950 is our next point of resistance, very, very close. See, the D is still there at angle, so our 1 volume has the D agreeable, and of course overarching over that is our 3-minute that is 45 degrees and agreeable. You see, we were very close on that last buy arrow for our 3-1, but we did not at the time of that arrow have either the D or the C agreeable. Looking for the next white arrow on a 1 volume. We know that there's a 3-1 as well underneath that with the D bias there. And our 3-1 has come out. 1D is there though. So if there is a white arrow for a 1D, we've also gone sideways here a little bit, so we can almost consider this as a 3-1 base as well. Of course, our 3-1 is in a tighter range, a 1 tick to 3 tick target. Move through that 1950 here with nary a signal.
2025 will be our next point of resistance. Finally getting some movement.
Then a couple of ticks of that 2025. Still have the 3s, still have the 1s. And still have the 1 volume with the E, EK. All of these components are still here to look for this as a scalp. EK, volume E.
EK just backed off. 1's just backed off too.
Let's see if there's a pullback here after having pushed up here a bit to this level.
One erg is flashing back into range, in and out of range right now. The 1 3-minute erg is weakening as well. Doesn't mean it can't come back.
Still is 45 degrees as well.
Losing your D bias.
Yeah. 1s are turning volumes.
A sharp red J attack coming in. Nothing on that red arrow.
Our D and our E bias are still thickly green, so it's holding us here at this level until we see a change in those biases into red. Very likely the C bias is coming into 60 degrees for a 3C. We have had the indication of a pullback with that red arrow, and our C bias has gone flat. So no longer the 3C. In fact, it's showing a little bit of red here. So we've been close here in the last few minutes a couple of times. Market has overall moved up almost a point, but with no real strength of momentum, and software has kept us safe out of considering any of the arrows or potential arrows that could have come in there. And what this does mean is we are looking for stronger indications, and quite frankly, we just haven't had that really at all today. A couple of near opportunities. Overall, we've been in a basically a 3.5 point range in an hour. So it is quite tight, that bottom 3 minute, and it's starting to come back to 45 degrees. Starting to see a little bit of change in the 5 minutes as well. So very close right there on a 5-3. It was very close on that first arrow, Greg. We can still see as the 5-3 is in place about getting in at the same level as that last arrow. But we are waiting for a pullback here, and just another opportunity. Just a bit off with that arrow and that setup coming in.
Pushing up now. The breakout out of the consolidation that we wanted to see. Like I said, if there's an opportunity there, we'll take advantage of it. And sometimes you can get in on those, sometimes you can't.
Again, our smaller charts are oscillating. We saw the D come into angle as that began to push up, so we came close to a scalp there and then flattened on the volume. Don't know where our E is.
It's very good. It's off the charts. Consider it strong enough for a setup. Ten ergs are angled up nicely on this last replotting here. We do have a setup 10. Someone's commenting that as well. Do need to see a pullback for a setup 10 going upwards. Pullback being a red arrow or even a sideways motion. We've come back 3 ticks and moved sideways the last 2 minutes.
Looking for the next white arrow here as we pulled back slightly.
tapping up, looking for a white arrow for setup 10.
We also see a 10, sorry, a 5-3, a 3C, even close to a 3B, 10-5. All of those are there. So if you're also looking just at the proper base 10 or even base 5, those are there as well. Again, a slight pullback there. We've got our ones and our volumes potentially turning at the top. We've had our E bias off the charts here for a while, which has kept us elevated and even pressing.
We are within a point of our all-time high, so take that into consideration as well. If we can break through that, the market can push through there pretty quickly. Can also be a bounce spot.
So your ones and volumes beginning to turn down as ergodics here. Still the E bias off the charts. I'd like to see this come back in a more recognizable, stronger pullback. 10s are great though, and 5s now plotted nicely with the 3s. 10-5-3. We're keeping elevated here, looking for our 317s to turn and looking for the next white arrow for a setup 10 and also a 10-5. The 10-5 is the 10-minute and 5-minute ergodics being agreeable at 45 degrees with one of the A or B biases being in agreement. Setup 10 is 45 degrees in the 10-minute ergodics with some angle of agreement in the A bias, which at the moment is sitting about 45 degrees. And setup 10 differs from our other base 10s because, or on the basis of just there's an arrow right at 2150. And I have a deeper target on my setup 10 and a deeper stop. The stop I have on the setup 10 is 4 points. Of course, with our base 10, 10-5 here, it is 2 points, less than a 10-point range. We look for either just setting your target at 3 ticks on the 10-5 at 22.25 in the case of the entry we're tracking here at 21.50, or you can set your target higher if this market does move through the 22.25 level, or 22 is our high, but if it moves through that level, it could move up a couple of points very quickly. So another approach is to set your target even at the 2-point level and look as the market moves through your what would be your 3-tick target to gauge it then. My target is higher, but to gauge it then and lock in by putting in a counter manual trade at that level with the higher target on your ladder to see if the market can continue to move and you can capture more than the 3 ticks, but also at the same time guard against losing what would be your 3 ticks by locking that in. Here's it moving through the 3 ticks. I've got my target higher at the 2-point level, and so I have not locked in the 3 ticks yet, though I have my cursor hovered right over the 22.25 level. Have some very strong information in our 10s, 5s, and 3s, and I just locked in and took my 3 ticks there at the 22.25 level as it just hovered there for a while, hasn't pushed ahead. Still have the setup 10, which has a deeper target. I have my target set at 24.50, 3 points just at the moment. And if it moves through this 22.75 level, I'll look to lock in probably 2 to 3 ticks on this setup 10. This is a bit of a pullback here, and so if we see even ideally a red arrow, but more of a movement against this upper 22.75 level, which is the high overnight that we just hit, look for another white arrow for another 10.5 opportunity. Still holding this setup 10. We've had a pullback. May even see a red arrow here. Although we do have ones and volumes down, we don't have any of the 10, 5s, or 3s downwards, so there is no scalp opportunity if you're not in a trade at the moment downward. You are looking at this as a pullback for another 10-5 opportunity upward. See one of the 3 minutes softening slightly. Still have the good setup 10 entry at 21.50. Looking for another white arrow in terms of an entry of the setup 10-5 again. So we do have a 10A flashing in. The A is coming into 60 degrees as well as this 10-5. And of course the continuing setup 10 here at 21.50. We're holding this level here. And you can see as we wait for the ones and volumes at 317s, all as they are red right now, waiting for them to come back into green cycle. One of the 3 minutes turning flat red, top one flattening at the top. C bias is still nicely and thickly green. So still potentially pressure upward as the smaller charts begin to turn. Again, my setup 10 target is still higher. And multiple times here, if you are not wanting to hold to take 3 ticks even on the setup 10, did take and lock in the 3 ticks on the 10-5. There's a red arrow, so that does solidify our pullback, looking for the next white arrow. Well, we still have the 10-5.
I need to correct myself from earlier. I said we're a point away from an all-time high. That was actually the high of the morning. I was looking at the day range, which we did hit. For the all-time high, we're still about 5.5 points away from that.
Keep your eyes for a white arrow here. May not come in.
See the ones and volumes turn up 317s. Could get another push.
Still have the 10-5. Actually, our setup 10 is starting to wane a bit and soften. So I'm just going to take the 3 ticks here on the setup 10. With the softening of the B bias, no longer have the 10-5, and that A is very much flat.
Yep.
So not looking for any arrow here at the moment till we see angle recovery in the A or the B, and I just took 3 ticks there on that setup 10.
Question about our stop loss. When we do our regular trades, the 10-5 stop loss we use for tracking is 8 ticks away. For a setup 10, we use a 4-point stop, which is 16 ticks. Still have a nice 10-5 ergs. Just need to see some bias angle come back in to support this. We have gone sideways the last few minutes after we hit that recent high of our morning.
Question about stop losses, and you can set up your ladder with bracket orders so that when you enter the market, it automatically populates a target and a stop loss. For base 10, 5s, and 3s, it's a 2-point stop loss generally, unless that stop loss lands within a tick or so of a point of support, in which case you may move that back a couple of ticks or so to give it some leeway and to be able to bounce off of that level. That's the only time where you would move it from the 2 points. As a general rule, stop loss. On the scalp charts, it is basically 5 ticks or so. And again, same scenario, you can move that a couple of ticks or so if that falls on a support level.
Depending on what your target for the day is and what you did on that 10-5 and or setup 10, if you fit your target for the day, sometimes we can have a very tight day like this with low volume and just have a small move. Well, relatively small move. We're still within a 6.25 point range in the day. So if you have hit your target for the day, just a reminder that you may want to consider trading a demo or backing off your contracts or going about the rest of your day. Everyone's target is different. For our tracking, we target 4 points before we go into our extras tracking. We have some people tell us they can get a couple of ticks or a point, sometimes 2 points.
Let's watch for this to perhaps turn around here. 5 minutes is flattening. One of them is at any rate. And no longer have the 10-5, obviously. Even the setup 10, flat A, that 1 10-minute starting to flatten, as is in the similar fashion to that 1 5-minute erg. 3 minutes starting to turn, so we may see this go sideways here a little bit as our ones and volumes are near the bottom of their range. We may, our 5 minutes have actually recovered themselves. Don't have anything in the A or the B at the moment to give us a setup 10-5 upward. Let's see if we can get some discernible angle to hold even on the A bias there. We do have the 3 minutes turning that can oftentimes we see give us what's called a 3-minute effect. Did have a white arrow just to my eye flat on that A bias, although it may be some angle starting to develop again on it.
It's been pretty flat since it went flat a few minutes back. Given the low volume today, I'm not much inclined to jump on anything. The very little angle. A great question came in here, Darren. What conditions should be present to trade a gain in the classic scalps without the 10, 5s, and 3s?
Sorry, let's watch for a scalp here upward. We've got the 10s and the 5s agreeable, though we don't have the angle in the A or the B that we want to see. But if we get a scalp upward, we have both those ergodics there. So let's keep an eye for that, just to give a heads up before you answer that question.
Yeah, you can answer this as well, Darren, but for me, why we started to tighten up is we saw a lot of setups coming in that weren't paying off. And ultimately, we want to see those patterns paying off with a much higher rate. Oftentimes, you'll see it when the market has a wider range, more volume. So I would think we get into bigger ranges in the day, more volume, that we may be able to consider relaxing that at that time. Again, the telltale sign is how well do they pay off? Are they high percentage trades? And that's why we keep talking about the patterns we see coming in. We're actually still tracking them on the side here to see how many of them would have paid off and how many wouldn't have paid off. But ultimately, for any pattern that you trade, you want something that you feel comfortable with, that you can get in quickly, you can exit, and have a good success rate. Don't know if you want to add anything more to that, Darren.
I think you nailed it pretty well. I mean, the real key thing is the volume, and you do need to see higher volume in order to really see the indication of momentum that we're have been used to with the scalps when they were moving very, very nicely in and of themselves with that F bias. And last while it's been just generally low volume. 10-minute ergotics, 5-minute ergotics, both 45 degrees, slight B bias coming back in again, slight A, but they're oscillating. And again, those ones and volumes haven't turned to give us even a consideration of a scalp upward, along with even the 10-minute or 5-minute ergotic. We see a little bit of softening as well. Come into almost a 10-minute 2-tick range here as the market goes sideways. Actually, in the last 5 minutes, it's been a 1-tick range.
Any thoughts on why the low volume? Summertime? A lot of people head out to the Hamptons and New York. We're just past the whole Greek thing. It's sort of settled down. We're getting into earnings season. Earnings will start coming out, and I guess after the market closes today and throughout the week, that could boost the market. Other economic announcements. We have a very light week for economic announcements. I think we mentioned earlier the unemployment claims will come out on Thursday. And we're trading near the all-time high. So pair all those things together. Hopefully we get more earnings that come out. That can certainly push the market higher or lower.
Let's watch for 45 degrees developing on the 3 minutes here downward. If that does develop with the C bias declining, we may see a movement down here from this level. EK coming in strongly. We need to see 45 degrees on that top 3 minute. It's just close. Last plotting, we see the 5 minutes go flat and one of them red, change in the A and the B bias. So they're starting to look at a development downward here. Again, that top 3 minute just shy of 45 degrees, but very close. Still seeing that EK spike in downward. 2150 is a point of resistance or support, depending on which way you're looking at it. Certainly is these threes, and it looks like the 3 is very much 45 degrees now, that top one, Greg. The EK did back off, so we don't have the EK any longer, nor do we have ones or volumes giving us anything parable on a scalp basis. We need to see 60 degrees in the B, C, or D to pair with the 45 degree 3 minute for a base 3. And this all could develop here in the next little bit.
Traders have been staying away.
Last replot there in the 3 minutes, very, very nice.
The bigger picture last week was lower volume as well, with Janet Yellen having her testimony before the Congress committees and Senate committees. Of course, the whole Greece issue. China the week before, they lost a huge amount of their stock market in a short amount of time, till they put certain controls in, stop people from selling, or stop large companies from selling, or large shareholders. And of course, you can't sell, you might as well buy. So it's bounced right back.
So we have a situation here, Greg, where we have 3 minutes down nicely and 10 minutes up nicely. So we can look for scalps either up or down to develop based on the 10-minute up and the 3-minute down. And now we have our A, B, and C all angled down, even the A into red here. So there may be more of a weighting downward in that series of time frames versus upward, but with strong turns in the ones and the volumes as they are at the bottom. Perhaps turning up, we do have the 10 minutes to pair with that if there is a scalp that comes in upward. Almost 20 minutes since we hit the 2275. In that span of time, we've oscillated 2250 to 2150. Even more recently, in the last 10 minutes, maybe even a bit more, we've done 2225 to 2150. So it's been a tight affair here. If we can see these 5 minutes begin to turn down, we'll have both the 5s and the 3s angled down with all of the bigger biases showing angle downward or red. So that may weight us toward the downward view of things. E bias continues to be sharply angled downward and in red, but no EK, nothing to pair with that E that we can look at on a scalp basis with the 3 minutes downward. Nothing that we can look at with that white arrow upwards with the 10 minutes green at 45 degrees. So we are just waiting for, at this point, something on the scalp charts to develop or some bias angle to make its appearance to work with the 3 minutes or the 10-minute. A little bit of shift in that E bias on a tick basis. Here we do have an EK coming in with the 10 minutes.
One volume supporting that.
If there is a white arrow, and the EK backed off one volume, bottom volume just coming into 45 degrees here. We do have the E bias agreeable with that. There's a buy signal there, right at 2250. And it moved through the 1 tick level. Actually, it's moved through by a couple of ticks. And I'm hovering over my 2 ticks at 2350. Might even be able to, and I just took my 2 ticks at 2350 on that scalp. That was a nice move there. Still have the 1 volume, although the volume's starting to fade a slight bit. Still have the 10 minutes upward. Volumes have faded. 1 minutes are still up, so if we can get a bias 60 degrees in the D, the 1D would be there. C starting to turn.
Strong 3 ergs down, strong 10 ergs up. And again, we're going sideways. Last 2 minutes. Minute and a half. 2 minutes.
Interesting.
After that push.
Just nice with the tightening up on our scalps. We've had one scalp opportunity this last one, of course, just then waiting for the bigger base 10 the last couple of opportunities, but we've had 3 trades, and all 3 of them have paid off for some profit. So, you know, we may be an hour and a half into the session. We may have only done 3 trades, but 3 trades tracked for 3 trades. One is I think worth the patience. Five minutes on a flash basis are angling down 45 degrees. Here's a sell arrow for 5-3 downward, came in very, very quickly at 21.75, and that was a very quick entry. My target 21 is just a tick above the 20.75 point of next resistance. 5-3 has come in very, very nicely, continuing to hold this. See the A bias. A bias has gone flat. We've got some B bias still at angle, assisting us. Seem to pick up a little bit of speed here, and that was, again, as I say, a very quick 5-3 that developed on that first red arrow. We are still holding this, tracking this as a 5-3 with the B bias and some slight C bias assisting this as well.
I like the E bias coming down slightly into red.
Mm-hmm.
Do have a point of resistance at 21.75, even 21.50. We've got a breakthrough. And break through there, we can drop quickly a point.
Yeah. Again, 20.75 is the next point of resistance. The 3-tick target is just right above that, and I'm just going to set it and forget it there, just with the tightness of today, and these points of resistance and support acting in very strong measure here. That 3 ticks is just above that obvious level there at 20.75, even 20.50. Nice 5-3 though. One's turning into this. You need to see these 3.17s begin to shift and angle down here. But again, a 3-tick target. Tapping on the 10-minute upward channel here. A little bit off on the 5 and the 3 there. A little bit lower down at the 20.75 level. That coincides with the horizontal 20.75, 20.50 level. We can see in our 317 price chart toward the left side. $21.50 point of resistance, coming down to almost 0 on the bid side at this level here, looking for this to break. It hasn't done it yet.
It did actually come down to 0 twice.
It did come down to 0 twice, did it? Okay. A little bit more speed. Again, the 5-3 is still there.
More conservatively, someone could take a tick on this. If we can break this, it can break down very quickly.
You need to see these 317s ultimately turn down. Looks like the F bias is starting to show some oscillation on its angle downward. Again, attacking this 21.50 level. Came down almost to zero again. 5-3 continues to be strong, but this 2150 continues to be a point of resistance. Still strong 5-3. Tapping almost on our 3 ticks here. Certainly the 2 ticks opened up there several times. .317s might be starting to turn, tapping on the 3 ticks. You can keep this lower. We do have the point of resistance, as I say, here at 2075, 2050. Tapping on my 3 ticks. I am setting and forgetting it here at 21 even. And came back and I got out there 21 even, 3 ticks.
Coming down to the 3-minute trend line, 10-minute trend line, even 5-minute trend line. More aggressively, someone could lock in break even and hold for a bigger break. Certainly locking in 3 ticks on a tight day like today. There's nothing wrong with that. Just trying to be a little more conservative. We do try to be aggressive in terms of trailing down, but on a tight day today, want to be conservatively aggressive, and we held on there for 3 ticks, and it took a while to break down. Held on to that trade longer than we normally hold on to trades.
It was a good 5 minutes there for that to move down through that level and afford us the 3 tick.
Yeah, even more than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of ways to look at that. You can be, as you say, Greg, a little bit more aggressive, but just giving homage to that 21 or 2050, 2075 level. If it bounces off, another opportunity, if the setup is still there, to consider another entry. We still have the 10 minutes upward. So it's interesting, if we do see a scalp upward, we have that as a consideration as well. Still very sharp 5-3s, but that 3-minute basically took the whole 3-minute cycle to get down from the 2350 to the 2075, and it took a period of time. Actually, it looks like it took about ultimately about 3 minutes. Well, it actually went sideways there for a little bit and had a push up to the 2350 in the course of that. But it looks like it was about 10, 12 minutes or so from the 2350 back down. We did get that first arrow quickly on the 5-3 as the 5s plotted, and that arrow came in to match up with the 3s at the 2175, and then it took a good 10 minutes to move down for that 3-tick lock-in. Of course, in the meantime, we have bounced off of that. It did move down to 2075. I don't know that at a 1-point target, if that would have filled anything there at 2075, but less than a 10-point range, we do target the 3 ticks. And just with the way today has gone, it just did not seem to be the right opportunity, and not just on a feel basis, but just with the points of resistance there, to look for a break in a trail. We see our volume starting to turn. A volume EK may come in upward with the 10 minutes. Let's watch for that. Just as we saw those 3 minutes begin to turn there back around 11 o'clock and begin to develop at least a sideways consolidation and ultimately a little bit of a move down. With these 3 minutes turning upward, we may see the same thing develop in an upward fashion along with those 10 minutes continuing to be upward. Starting to see that A bias starting to flicker with a little bit of angle. I'd like to see a little bit more for a set of 10. Again, nothing on that arrow. We do have volumes that are 45 degrees now, but nothing on the D or the E for a scalp upward. That may come in. I see someone's asking about the setup 10 there, probably a minute or so before I started talking about it there. I'd still like to see, and just by my eye, that A bias, it's just a little bit flat and ticking flat here. It has been for the last while. Just like to see a little bit more discernible angle for that setup 10 to be in place. Starting to see the 1 volume. A slight E bias. Of course, we do have the 10 minutes upward. Those 3 minutes and 5 minutes are still downward. Interesting, we have gone flat on the B bias, a slight C bias angled down, 5-3. We do have consideration that the 3 minutes are near the end of their cycle. 1 volume upward with the E bias, 10-minute ergodics. On the next white arrow is a scalp upward. We do have 22, 25 as a point of resistance. We're within a tick of that. And at the same time, we have our 5-3 downward with the C bias assisting on that 3D as well downward. So we have a couple of different strong setups indicated in either direction. And we may see a white arrow come in first off on the scalp.
EK spiking in upwards to support that 1 volume.
With the 10 minutes. See the D bias has changed. It's upward now as well. 1 volume with the D and the E assisting. 10 minutes there, looking for that scalp upward. 3 minutes are straight down. 5 minutes are straight down with the C bias. So if we don't see a white arrow coming in here as these 317s begin to turn, we may see the 5-3 be the next opportunity downward with the red arrow, and that may be coming in now as the 5-3s are still down with the C bias. See a turn in the 317s, even a slight turn beginning to form in the top 1 minute, and the D and the E going flat in their angles, or flattening in their angles. We do need to see that C bias continue to have angle for the 5-3 downward and a red arrow. Bottom 3 is flattened. C bias is just 45 degrees, maybe a tiny bit more, so the 5B is not there yet. But if we do see a scalp come in downward with the 5 minutes, that would be something to consider. Again, the 10 minutes are up, and at the moment, the top 1 minute just looks like it's flattening a bit, but it is within the realm of possibility to straighten up and have a 1 volume upward with the 10 minutes. EK actually looks like it might be spiking in upward here. 1 3-minute going green, so that may move us upward. There's a scalp, 2175 with the 1 volume and the D and the E assisting. 1 tick target at 22, which is a tick below our 22.25 level. Still have the E and the K now actually attacking across here. Of course, our 10 minutes are supporting this. The S10 is coming in that 10 minutes, starting to show some angle now. And just lost one of our 1 minutes, and I just exited there at 1 tick down, 2150 on that 1 volume upward. So we do have the 5 minutes downward still, so we may see ourselves move down in this range. We are in a tighter range here at the bottom. Probably, well, since about 11:30 or just a minute or two after that. See that 3 minutes starting to turn, and that pushed us up a bit in this range. The 1 minute starting to fade, and that pushed us down. Don't have any scalp here upward anymore. The 10 minutes are still there. The A bias now starting to show some green. I know it was showing a little bit of green before, but slight angle. Just given our time, I'd like to see a little bit more. Plus, we've had only 1 candlestick here, so we might be able to see something on the volume scalp basis upward with the 10 minutes. If that does come in, we may have the ability to have a little bit of a deeper target, even upward toward the 23.25 level, and just with the 10 minutes and the slight A that may come in a little bit stronger in that scenario, hold it through the 1 tick level to maybe even 2 or 3 ticks on a scalp basis. Volume E coming in with the 10s on the next white arrow. And again, that scenario with the slight A bias here. Need to see a little bit of sideways or pullback consideration for that arrow to be a setup 10. We haven't had that yet, but we do have the recognition of that angle starting in the A bias to have a little bit more of a target on a scalp, and perhaps see this move through the 1 tick very quick and capture 2 or 3 ticks on that. Still looking for the white arrow. See a nice sharp volume E. Yeah, again with the S10, I want to see a little bit more of a pullback here, even more of a sideways consolidation to consider as a pullback. But I am looking at this potential scalp here with a little bit more of a longer term view based upon the developing angle in that A bias, knowing that we also have a 2350 high there. And even in this scenario, eyeballing maybe 23.25 as a target on that. If we do see a pullback and the angle maintained in the A, then that would be a setup 10 in its own right. In the meantime, the 5s are still downward. If there's a scalp that develops downward, that may be the first opportunity that does come in. Overall, we've been very tight since about 11 o'clock in this upper range, 2350 to basically 2075, 2050. So 3-point range again, 45 odd minutes, 45 to 50 minutes. Our E bias is come away from 60 degrees. Our 1s are beginning to turn. Here's our E coming back to 60 degrees. So let's keep an eye again. Volume E seems to be flashing in and out upward. The 10 minutes agree with that. 1 minute's turning. we may see a scalp downward along with the base 5. C bias not 60 degrees yet for 5C. Slightest of angles in that A bias.
E's flattened, or flattening. It was nicely angled up.
C bias flattened, no longer declining toward a 5C. And as you say, the E bias flattening, the D bias flattening. And we may see this develop into something of a scalp around those base 5s, with those base 5s downward. That may be the next thing in order here.
The K attack separated the way it is. We've oftentimes seen that red K attack come up across. Let's see if that actually happens. We see the green starting to angle down. If so, we could get an EK down. We see the F starting to angle down into red. 317's turning down. Even close to 1D.
C bias coming closer to 45 degrees again.
Still holding this 2175.
Yeah. Ones have come to 45 degrees, but nothing to pair that with. Again, the 5 minutes still nicely down. 10 minutes still nicely up. And we continue to go sideways here. K might be attacking red here shortly. Looks like it may be showing signs of that. Of course, our 3 minutes turning is buoying us at this level. Sort of adding a little bit of strength here in terms of a pressure up against the pressure downward around the 5s, and the smaller charts turning, causing us to go sideways here. Again, we haven't even hit 500,000 contracts yet in terms of volume traded, so it is very low. 10 minutes away from the end of our session, just coming close to 470,000 contracts traded. 1 minutes have shifted on us. And that A bias is actually, though it's still green, to my eye it's gone flat, even angled down slightly.
Yeah, that A bias, if it did have a little bit of angle to it, and it's right on the break-even line too. Oftentimes we see is that A goes deeper into red or deeper into green, matching the ergs. Oftentimes there can be a nice move. Of course, with these 10 ergs being green, if that A bias had moved up more in the green, you would expect to see a longer term move up, but it's just not there. They are coming up near the top, and we may see, I don't know if we'll see it in our session, but possibly later on in the session, start to angle back down. Maybe have a bigger setup 10 down.
Starting to see a bit of a volume E coming in upward here. We're 10 minutes still angled upward. That C bias, maybe even a little bit more than 45 degrees downward now. Not enough for 60 degrees on that last red arrow. Interesting how, well, we've been slow pretty much of the morning, except for a little bit of excitement when we had some of the bigger setups come in. We've had 5 trade opportunities here this morning. Volume E is upward with the 10 minutes. We have nothing downward here. We have our 3 minutes starting to turn upward. C bias angle down, so even internally on the 3 minute time frame, the bias and the ergodics are not in the same direction. See that B bias showing some angle downward now as well. We have our 5C now coming in. We'd like to see a little bit of a pullback, so maybe again we might see a scalp come in first of all downward, which we could on the basis of the 5C now being very much there, holding with more of a target than the 1 tick. Let's see if that develops, or if we see more of an observable pullback and still have the 5C downward.
We have gone sideways for the last 15 minutes. That sideways motion, obviously a pullback would be a white arrow the opposite direction, but even just having gone sideways, one may want to consider that, I would think, Darren. Although we are tapping the 22.25.
We were only on the very next candlestick after that last arrow, so it's not that much of a consolidation sideways. We have the 10s upward, and that E bias not holding or giving us any level to work or angle to work with the volumes on. And I think we're waiting here. Well, we had 2 candlesticks now, and a tighter market. It's one of those areas where we can start to consider this as a pullback. We do have the 5C still there, 1s, and our volumes beginning to shift toward the downside. So as you say, we are in a position here to begin to consider this here on the next red arrow. Lost that C from what was pretty much 60 degrees there on that last plot. So now we are just looking at scalps downward with the base 5 or scalps upward with the base 10. 1E may come in downward. Let's watch for that. Now we've already had a red arrow. We would need to see that setup come in, EK, 1E.
Even the D supporting that too.
We would need to see that come in with the red arrow. We haven't seen that line up yet here. One of those 3 minutes has gone red. So this may develop downward here, 21.25, 20.75, all points of resistance here. Close on our 1s now. EK starting to come in downward with the 5 minutes. And they're starting to see that K come across. If there's another red arrow.
The nice F bias come in to support this.
Yeah.
Ones are angled down.
Seeing that K come to attack across.
We're coming down to a point of resistance at 21, even 20.75. We bounced off here earlier.
At bottom 1 minute, coming into 45 degrees as well for a 1E with the 5 minutes at the 21.25 level.
If we can break that 20.75, we could have a bigger drop.
Coming into the last 4 minutes of our session here. Starting to show a slight difference in our 10-minute ergodics, a little flattening on one of those ergodics. Still razor sharp downward on the 5 minutes. EK still approaching with that K and that E. This level, the 1s, the 1E is there with the F, as you say. I'd like to see our next red arrow with the 5 minutes. And lost the EK, lost the E. The 1s are still there somewhat, but no E. So did not have the setup be there and a signal. And we're moving up here a little bit in this tiny range.
It's very quickly backed up to the 22.25, bouncing off that 21. I mentioned that before. See our 3s have turned up quickly. Any trade that we would consider, see our E's are spiking up, possible EK. If we do get in a trade going, well, up or down, we will be getting out at noon for tracking purposes.
Sorry, there's the EK with the 10 minutes. If we see a white arrow,
if we break out of the zone, we could push up to the high here, 23.50.
Possible. With the 10 minutes, you could have a little bit of a deeper target to 23.25, but with the EK scalp, looking for it to initially target the one tick. You can set and forget at one tick, or have your target at the 1 point and look to lock in the one tick as it moves through. There's 2025, or sorry, 2225 as the entry on that EK. K continuing to separate, E continuing to spike. Just setting your target even at the one tick, or having a higher target look to lock in. I'm just looking to take the one tick here at 2250. We're within about a minute and a half of the end of the session, so that's why I'm targeting there. I just filled my one tick at 2250. And starting to flash in and out of the 1 minutes. And that's part and parcel why, with coming into the last almost 1 minute here, we're session just looking to target that one tick. I know the 3 ones beginning to come in. We just saw one of the ones flash to red though. So the one tick was open and filled that there.
Just coming into the last 40 minutes. Don't think we're 40 seconds, sorry. Half minute. Darren's just going to tally up our score here. That shouldn't take too long. We didn't have many trades today. Went for the whole first hour without any trades. It's been a long time since we've done that, but the ones that did come in, we were patient and they paid off for us for the most part. Good winning day. Hope those that have their target set for the day, you lock in your profit. And we are now at the noon mark. Whenever you're ready here, Darren, just chime in.
Yeah, well, setup 10, we had one trade, and when we lost the setup, locked in the 3 ticks. So 3 ticks on the setup 10. 10-5, one trade, same time as we were doing the setup 10, 3 ticks on that. One volume, we had 2 trades on that, netted out 1 tick total. And 5-3, we had 3 ticks on that. And EK, just this last one, we had a tick on it. So that all totals up to 2 points. So 2 3/4 points on the day. And that was in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trades. So very, very nice day, as you say. Nothing really for the first hour, but when we did get something, we capitalized on it. And you know, the key is not to get frustrated if there's nothing that shows up. You just simply wait for the market to come to you.
If anyone is on today, sorry, you're going to say more?
No, that was
okay. If anyone is on this afternoon, Kane, remember to watch closely for those ergs. Nice to see the 10 5s and 3s and a nice sine wave pattern. Didn't have that for the first hour of the morning, so we may have a little more action this afternoon. But make sure that you watch for a nice 45-degree angle on the ergs, 60-degree angle on the bias, as long as we're within a 10-point range. Practice on your demo ladder, the entries coming in and getting out, and follow the rules. Be very disciplined, and try to overcome the emotions of holding on when you see a good setup, then it loses and starts to go the other way. Just get out, wait for the next one. If anyone's played baseball, get lots of pitches that come in. You just wait and take the right pitches that you want. If you chase balls outside, oftentimes you can make contact with them, but you can't place the ball where you want to place it. And you end up fouling them off or popping them up or grounding out or whatever. Just wait for the setups that you're comfortable with, practice them, and there will be losing trades. That's fine. But when you're patient, wait for the right time, we can have results like we had today. Thanks, Darren, for your great commentary today. And everyone have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, wherever you are, evening.